The stars were silent. The black sea of space stretched forever, empty and endless. But the silence was not peace. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm. Far away, the human fleet drifted out of hyperspace. Dozens of warships, dark. Giants with steel skin emerged from the void. Their engines hummed low, glowing like blue fire in the darkness. Each ship carried men and women who had left their homes behind, ready to fight a war no one had ever seen before. Inside the flagship, the air was tense. The crew sat at their stations, their eyes locked on glowing screens. The captain stood tall at the command deck, his face hard, his voice quiet. "Report," he said. "Enemy fleet detected," replied the officer. Her voice trembled slightly. "Multiple signals, they're waiting for us." The captain's eyes narrowed, waiting. That word carried weight. Aliens were not supposed to wait. They attacked with fury, wild and savage. But tonight the stars felt different. Something was wrong. "Open a channel," the captain ordered. Static filled the bridge, followed by a cold voice. It was not human. The sound scraped like metal grinding stone. "You came into our space," the alien voice said. "You came to die." The crew shivered. Even through the comms, the words carried something dark, something unnatural. The captain's reply was firm. "Humanity does not come to die. We come to end this chaos." The channel cut. Silence returned, heavier than before. Far outside, the alien ships waited in the shadows. They did not move. Not yet. Their shapes were strange, twisted metal, curved, like blades. Some looked alive, pulsing with faint red lights as if blood flowed through them. Others floated like broken bones in the dark. One of the young soldiers whispered, "Why aren't they firing? Why are they just waiting?" No one answered. In the lower decks of the flagship, the Marines prepared. Armor plates locked into place. Helmets sealed. The sound of weapons charging filled the hall. Men and women looked at each other, fear hidden behind hard eyes. A private spoke softly to his partner. "First time in real battle?" She nodded. "I thought they would. Look like us, but they don't." "They're not like us," the private said. "They don't fear. They don't stop. That's why we're here. We show them humans don't stop either." The engines roared as the fleet shifted position. Steel groaned, weapons charged, and the silence of space cracked with tension. On the command deck, the captain studied the alien fleet. His gut twisted. They were too quiet, too still. "Something's wrong," he whispered. The tactical officer looked up. "Sir, they're not forming lines. They're not preparing for battle. They're waiting for us to move first." A chill spread through the room. Everyone understood what that meant. A trap. The captain clenched his jaw. "If they want us to strike first, then they already have a plan. But we can't turn back." The first officer leaned close. "Sir, if we hold position, they might—" The words died in her throat, because in that moment the stars lit up. One alien ship, then another, powered on. Their red lights grew brighter, pulsing like beating hearts. Shadows stretched across the void as more ships awakened, each one larger, stranger, more menacing. The void was no longer silent, it was alive. A voice broke through the static again, cold, mocking. "Come closer, Deathworlders, let us taste your courage." The crew froze. The words struck like a blade. Deathworlders, that was what the aliens called humans. A race born on a world too wild, too dangerous, too cruel. A race that survived storms, predators, famine, and fire. A race that should never have made it to the stars. The captain's eyes hardened. "Deathworlders," he repeated, almost like a challenge. He turned to his crew. "Ready the fleet." The ships moved into formation, steel giants turning their cannons toward the waiting shadows. The silence broke as weapon locks echoed across the bridge. But before a single shot could fire, something unexpected happened. From deep within the alien armada, a signal burst out, sharp, desperate, human. "Help! Us, this is not their fleet. We are trapped." The transmission cut. The bridge fell silent. The crew exchanged terrified looks. A human voice from inside the alien fleet. "How is that possible?" whispered the officer. The captain stared at the black void where the signal came from. His mind raced. Were there prisoners aboard the alien ships? Or was this something else? A trick? The comms officer swallowed. "Sir, should we answer?" The captain raised a hand to quiet the room. His voice was calm, but his heart thundered. "If they have humans, we cannot leave them. But if it's a trap—" He paused, his eyes cold as stone. "Then we walk into hell." Outside, the alien ships began to move at last, spreading like a dark wave. The stars vanished behind their growing wall of steel and flesh. The human fleet held steady, waiting for the order. The captain stood tall on the bridge, his shadow long in the flickering light. He spoke only 3 words: "Forward, into chaos." The engines roared, and the human fleet surged into the dark. The silence of the stars shattered. The human fleet charged forward, engines burning like streaks of fire in the dark. Cannons locked onto targets, and every heartbeat on the ships echoed with the weight of war. On the flagship's bridge, the crew waited for the order to fire. The captain's voice was steady. "Target the closest cruiser. Ready all weapons." The silence of space shattered. Bright beams of plasma and heavy shells thundered from human cannons, tearing across the void. The first alien ship caught fire, its twisted body splitting apart, glowing like a dying star. The crew gasped. For a moment hope flickered. "We got them," one of the gunners shouted, but the hope vanished quickly. From behind the first line of alien ships, more vessels appeared, sliding out of the shadows like predators. Their weapons flared, and beams of green energy sliced through the dark. The human fleet shook as several smaller ships were ripped apart. In seconds, on the bridge, alarms screamed, sparks flew from broken panels, officers shouted reports, voices layered in chaos. "Port side hit! Hull breach on deck 12. Destroyer Vanguard lost. They're surrounding us, sir." The captain gripped the railing tightly, his voice cut through the noise. "Hold formation. Do not break." The human ships fought back, but the aliens were too many. Their vessels moved strangely, twisting in ways that defied logic, as if they were alive. Every time a human ship destroyed one, 2 more slid into place. In the Marine Bay, soldiers braced themselves as the ship rocked. The private who had spoken earlier tightened his grip on his rifle. His partner, helmet on, looked at him with wide eyes. "Is this it?" she asked. "No," he said firmly. "We're still standing. That means we keep fighting." The next moment, the lights flickered. A deep voice echoed over the comms, cold and mocking. "You fight hard, Deathworlders, but you bleed like all the others." The crew froze. The voice wasn't coming from their comms. It was coming from the ship itself, vibrating through the metal. The aliens were speaking inside their systems. The comms officer paled. "Sir, they've breached our network." The captain's jaw clenched. "Cut them out!" "I'm trying," she shouted, fingers racing across her console. Suddenly, the alien voice whispered again, softer this time. "We are inside already. You cannot stop what is coming." The screens on the bridge flickered. For a split second, strange images flashed, faces twisted in fear, cities burning, human screams. The crew recoiled in horror. Then, just as quickly, the images vanished. The alien fleet opened fire again, tearing through another human destroyer. The first officer turned to the captain, her face pale. "Sir, they want us afraid. They're trying to break us before the real strike." The captain's eyes burned with anger. "Then let them see what fear looks like when it fights back." "Bring us closer," he ordered. The flagship surged, ahead cutting into the alien line. Cannons roared at point-blank range. Alien ships shattered, spilling burning fragments into the dark. The humans fought like wolves, savage and unrelenting, but even as they pushed forward, something was wrong. On one of the smaller human ships, sensors screamed warnings. The young ensign on duty stared at his screen, his face pale. "Captain, I'm reading movement, not from their fleet, from inside their ships." The commander leaned in. "Explain." The ensign swallowed. "It looks like something is launching from them, small crafts, hundreds, headed straight for us." And then they saw it. Swarms of black, insect-like ships poured out of the alien vessels, tiny but fast, moving like a storm of hornets. Each carried cutting beams sharp enough to slice through steel. "They're boarding craft," the commander whispered. The hornet swarm crashed into the human fleet. Small human frigates exploded instantly under the sheer number of attackers. On the flagship, alarms blared again as several of the small craft latched onto the hull like parasites. "They're breaching the ship," shouted security. The Marines, locked and loaded. The private looked at his partner, fear in his eyes, but fire in his voice. "This is it. We keep them out, or we die here." The bulkhead doors shook as the aliens began cutting through. The heat of their weapons turned the steel red. Sparks sprayed across the hall. A voice hissed through the comms, the same alien voice from before. "We will carve your steel, then your flesh." The doors burst open. Alien warriors poured inside, tall, twisted creatures with blade-like limbs and glowing eyes. They moved with terrifying speed. The Marines opened fire, bullets tearing through. The first wave. The corridor shook with sound and smoke. Aliens screamed, a chilling metallic noise, but more kept coming, crawling over their fallen. The private fired until his rifle overheated. He shouted to his partner, "Left side! They're breaking through!" She threw a grenade. The explosion tore the hallway apart, scattering alien bodies across the deck, but still they came, relentless. On the bridge, the captain's face was grim. "If we don't hold them, this ship falls." The first officer whispered, "Sir, what if this was the plan all along? The fleet was just a distraction. They wanted to get inside." The captain didn't answer. He knew she was right. Suddenly, the desperate human signal crackled again over the comms. "Help! Please, anyone, inside their flagship. They're not what you think." Static swallowed the message. The captain's eyes widened. That voice. Again. It wasn't random. It wasn't noise. The tactical officer turned. "Sir, orders." The captain stared into the void, at the massive alien flagship at the center of the swarm. His gut told him the truth. Whatever was happening inside that ship was the key. His voice was steady, hard as iron. "We break through to their flagship, no matter the cost." The crew stared at him in shock, charging into the heart of the alien. Swarm was suicide, but no one spoke against him. The captain looked at his people, at their fear and their courage. He raised his voice. "They call us Deathworlders. Let's show them why." The flagship's engines roared, and the human fleet rallied around it, charging straight into the teeth of the alien storm. In the darkness of space, the real war had only just begun. The human flagship cut through the storm of fire, engines burning bright against the dark. Alien ships swarmed around it, firing beams that tore the night apart. The rest of the human fleet followed, battered, but still holding formation. On the bridge, the crew worked in chaos. Sparks fell from the ceiling, alarms screamed, but the captain's voice cut through it all. "Stay on course. Their flagship is the target. Nothing else matters." The first officer's hands trembled as she gripped the console. "Sir, our losses are heavy. If we press forward, we may not make it." The captain's eyes stayed locked on the massive alien vessel ahead. It floated in the void like a dark fortress, larger than any ship humanity had ever seen. Its hull glowed faintly, as though something inside was alive. "We'll make it," he said firmly. "We have no choice." Outside, alien fighters dived toward them, claw-shaped crafts that moved like predators. Human guns roared in answer, cutting down dozens, but more filled their place. One destroyer to the left side exploded, a ball of fire swallowed quickly by the dark. The comms officer shouted, "Sir, the ironclad is gone." The crew's faces tightened with grief, but the captain didn't flinch. "For every ship we lose, we strike them twice as hard. Keep firing." In the Marine Bay, soldiers waited by the sealed doors. The private and his partner sat against the wall, rifles across their laps. Both were covered in ash and dust from earlier fights. The private wiped blood from his cheek. "They're throwing everything at us," he muttered. His partner stared at the deck. "Do you think we can even reach that flagship?" He gave a thin smile. "We don't stop. That's the only answer." Suddenly, the deck shook, lights flickered, and a deep vibration rolled through the ship. "What was that?" someone shouted. The answer came over the comms. "Brace for impact. Enemy boarding craft attached to starboard side." The Marines jumped to their feet. The private's partner locked her helmet in place. He loaded a fresh magazine into his rifle. "Here we go again." The bulkhead hissed as the aliens began cutting through. The sound of metal melting filled the air. When the door blew open, smoke and sparks spilled out, and alien warriors crawled through like shadows with glowing eyes. The Marines opened fire. Bullets tore through the first wave, but the creatures didn't stop. They leaped forward with bladed limbs, slashing at anything in reach. The hallway erupted into screams, gunfire, and blood. The private pulled his partner behind cover. "Grenade! Now!" She tossed it. The blast shook the deck, flinging alien bodies across the hall. For a moment, silence. Then more creatures poured in. On the bridge, the tactical officer shouted, "Multiple breaches across the ship!" The captain's voice was hard as stone. "Seal off the lower decks. Hold them as long as you can." But then something strange happened. The ship's sensors picked up a signal again, the same desperate human voice from before. "Help us, please. Inside their flagship, there are humans here." Static swallowed the message. The crew exchanged horrified glances. The first officer whispered, "It's not a trick. Someone's alive in there." The captain's jaw tightened. "Then that ship is more than a fortress. It's a prison." The comms officer looked at him, fear in her voice. "Sir, if we go in, we might not come out." The captain didn't hesitate. "If humans are trapped inside, then we fight for them. Full speed ahead." The flagship roared, engines flaring brighter than ever. It cut a path through the swarm, blasting apart alien ships that stood in its way. Human cruisers followed close. Behind, though their numbers thinned with every passing minute, as they drew closer to the alien fortress, the true scale of it became clear. It wasn't just a ship. Its surface twisted like bone and steel fused together, massive towers rising. From its hull, red lights pulsed along its body, like veins feeding a beating heart. The first officer whispered, "It looks alive." The tactical officer shook his head in disbelief. "That's not just a ship, that's something else entirely." The alien voice returned, louder this time, echoing across every human channel. "You seek our heart? Then come, Deathworlders. Come and be broken." Suddenly, the alien flagship's hull split open. From the wound came a colossal shape, a weapon larger than the human flagship itself. It pulsed with red energy, growing brighter with every second. The tactical officer screamed, "Sir, energy spike! They're charging something massive!" The captain gripped the rail so hard his knuckles went white. "Divert all power to shields. Brace for impact!" The red beam fired. It tore through space like a burning sun, striking one of the human cruisers. In an instant, the ship was gone. Nothing left but drifting fragments. Gasps filled the bridge. The first officer whispered, "We can't take another hit like that." But before despair could spread, something unexpected happened. The alien beam faltered, flickering as though interrupted. For a brief moment, the massive weapon dimmed. The comms officer shouted, "Sir, the signal! It came again! Inside their weapon system! Someone's trying to sabotage it!" The captain's eyes lit with fierce hope. "They're not just prisoners. They're fighting from within." The first officer turned to him, shock in her voice. "Sir, are you saying—" "Yes," he cut her off. "There are humans inside and they're weakening it." The bridge fell into stunned silence. For the first time since the battle began, the crew felt a spark of something stronger than fear. The captain straightened, his voice like steel. "All ships, focus fire on their flagship. If our people are inside, we give them the chance to finish what they've started." The fleet roared in answer. Every cannon, every missile turning on the alien fortress. Explosions ripped across its hull, tearing through twisted metal and glowing veins. The fortress shuddered, its red lights flickering like a dying heartbeat in the Marine Bay. The private and his partner heard the captain's order. The private grinned despite the chaos. "Looks like we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore." His partner reloaded her rifle, eyes burning with determination. "Then let's make sure we hold long enough to see it fall." The alien warriors screamed, pressing harder against the Marines. Blades clashed, rifles fired, and the deck became a storm of smoke and blood. On the bridge, the captain's eyes locked on the alien fortress. He whispered to himself, "Whoever you are in there, hold on." The human fleet pushed forward, flames and wreckage lighting their path. The alien flagship trembled, its weapons struggling to recharge. And deep within its shadowed halls, hidden, prisoners fought a war of their own. The storm of chaos was only growing stronger. The alien fortress burned under the fire of the human fleet. Explosions tore across its twisted surface, but still it refused to fall. Its red veins pulsed like the heartbeat of some dark beast, and with every beat, more alien ships poured from its shadow. On the human flagship, the bridge was chaos. Officers shouted orders over the sound of alarms, and smoke filled the air. Sparks rained from broken panels, but the captain's voice stayed calm and sharp. "Keep firing! Don't give them a second to recover," the tactical officer shouted. "Sir, we're losing ships fast. Half the fleet is gone." The captain's eyes stayed fixed on the fortress. His voice was steady. "Then we fight with the half that remains." In the lower decks, the Marines were fighting their own war. Alien warriors stormed through broken doors, their blade-like limbs slashing through steel and flesh. The humans met them in brutal combat, refusing to fall back. The private slammed his rifle butt into an alien's face, sending it crashing to the floor. His partner fired beside him, cutting down another that tried to leap forward. They just... "Keep coming!" she shouted. "Then we keep killing," he yelled back, pulling a knife from his belt as another alien lunged. He drove the blade upward into its throat, twisting until the creature collapsed in a spray of black fluid. The hall was a storm of screams and gunfire. Humans fought with bullets, fists, and blades. When ammo ran dry, they used their helmets, their boots, their bare hands. Every fallen Marine dragged down 2 more aliens with them. Up on the bridge, the first officer watched the battle reports pour in. Her face was pale. "Sir, our Marines are being overrun. Casualties are too high." The captain's voice was cold. "No, they're not overrun. They're holding the line. They will hold." As if to prove his words, another Marine squad sealed off a breach by detonating charges, blowing themselves up with the aliens that had broken through. The ship shook with the blast. The comms officer gasped as a message cut through the noise. It wasn't alien. It was human. "This is..." Static crackled inside their fortress. "We're breaking free. We need more time. Hold them back." The bridge froze. Survivors were alive in the alien flagship. The captain's voice grew fierce. "You heard them. They're fighting in there. So we fight out here. We buy them every second they need." The human fleet rallied once more, ships turning their fire on the alien fortress with relentless fury. One by one, the smaller alien crafts fell, burned to ash. But the fortress still pulsed, its red glow growing brighter. The first officer stared at it in horror. "Sir, their core, it's building energy again. If it fires, we're finished." The captain slammed his fist against the rail. "Then we strike now. Order all ships, close the distance. We board that monster." Gasps filled the bridge. Boarding the alien fortress was madness, but no one argued. They had no other choice. The order spread. Human ships broke formation, engines roaring as they drove into the storm. Cannons fired at point-blank range, blasting holes into the fortress's twisted hull. Through fire and wreckage, the first boarding craft launched. In the marine bay, the private and his partner were among the chosen. They strapped into the transport as the ship shook around them. The private checked his rifle, then looked at her. "You ready?" he asked. She nodded, though fear glimmered in her eyes. "Not really," he gave a hard smile. "Good, that means you're human." The boarding craft launched, streaking through the chaos. Alien fighters swarmed them, but the escorts fought to keep them clear. Explosions lit the darkness as humans forced their way into the heart of the beast. The craft slammed against the fortress's hull, claws digging into the twisted metal. The door blew open, and Marines poured out into the alien ship. Inside was worse than they imagined. The halls were alive, walls pulsing, breathing, oozing with strange fluids. The air was thick and foul, burning in their throats. The ground vibrated with every step, as though they were walking inside the body of something that lived. The private raised his rifle. "Hell," he muttered. "We're inside a nightmare." The aliens struck from the shadows. Warriors leapt from the walls, dropping from the ceiling, their glowing eyes bright in the dark. The Marines fired in every direction. The hall became a slaughterhouse. One soldier screamed as an alien tore into him, but his partner dragged him back, firing point-blank into the creature's skull. Another Marine swung his weapon like a club, bashing an alien down before stabbing it with a combat knife. The private and his partner fought side by side, their rifles barking in unison. She shouted over the chaos, "How many of these things are there?" "Enough to kill us 10 times, he answered, slamming another round into his gun. "But we only need to kill them once." Suddenly the comms crackled again. The same human voice shouted desperately, "We're in the core. They're building something inside. It's not just a weapon. It's a—" Static cut the message. The Marines froze for half a heartbeat. Then more aliens rushed them, and the fight dragged them forward into the depths of the fortress. On the bridge of the human flagship, the captain watched as his Marines vanished into the beast. He knew many would not return, but he also knew this was the only way. His voice carried across the fleet. "Deathworlders do not bow. We do not break. Inside that fortress, our people are waiting for us, so we fight, and we keep fighting until this nightmare is torn apart." Across the ships, humans roared in answer. Inside the fortress, the Marines pushed deeper, step by bloody step. Each hall cost them lives. Each corner was a battle, but still they moved forward, because somewhere inside, humans were alive, fighting their own war. And tonight, Deathworlders would show the galaxy what it meant to be human. The human Marines pushed deeper into the alien fortress, their boots sinking into floors that pulsed like veins. Every hallway felt alive, every wall breathing. The fortress wasn't just a machine, it was something more, something unnatural. The private wiped black blood from his helmet and kept moving. His partner walked close beside him, rifle steady. Behind them, fewer Marines remained. Too many had fallen. The air smelled of smoke, acid, and death. "We can't hold this pace," one sergeant growled. "They'll bleed us dry before we even reach their core." The private shook his head. "Then we bleed, but we don't stop. You heard the signal. Our people are inside. We don't leave them." His words carried a stubborn fire, and the Marines pressed on. Above, the human fleet was dying. Alien ships closed in from every side, their weapons hammering at the last line of defenders. One cruiser after another fell, torn apart in flames. On the flagship's bridge, the tactical officer shouted over the chaos, "Sir, we can't hold. They've surrounded us." The first officer's voice shook. "We've lost 2/3 of the fleet. We can't take this pressure." The captain stood firm, his eyes locked on the alien fortress. "We're not done yet." The tactical officer spun toward him. "Then tell us how, sir, because in 5 minutes we'll all be dust." The captain said nothing at first. His hand rested on the console, fingers tapping slowly as his mind raced. The alien fleet was stronger, faster, endless. A straight fight meant death. But space itself was a weapon. If he could use it right, maybe. He turned sharply. Chart a course toward the gravity storm. The bridge froze. Gasps spread through the crew. The first officer's face went pale. "Sir, that storm will tear us apart. No ship survives inside it." "Exactly," the captain said. His voice was cold, steady, but neither will theirs. The room erupted in protests. "Sir, that's suicide. The fleet will never make it." The captain raised his voice. "It's the only way. We drag them in, force them to follow, and use the storm against them. Humanity has always survived the impossible. This will be no different." The bridge fell silent. The first officer swallowed hard, then nodded. "Yes, sir." Orders spread across the fleet. Engines roared, and what remained of humanity's warships turned sharply, racing toward the swirling chaos ahead. The gravity storm filled the void like a hungry monster. A swirling maelstrom of broken moons, shattered asteroids, and tearing space. Lightning arced across its surface, each bolt brighter than a sun. Ships that entered its reach were pulled apart in seconds. The alien fleet hesitated, but only for a moment. Then they followed, determined to finish the kill. On the flagship, the tactical officer shouted, "They're taking the bait!" The captain's eyes never left the storm. "Good. Now hold steady." The first wave of human ships entered the edge of the storm. Gravity pulled at their hulls, dragging them into the swirl. Rocks spun past, smashing into alien fighters. A few human frigates were lost immediately, torn apart by the violent pull. The comms officer cried, "We're losing too many." "Stay the course," the captain barked. The fleet dove deeper. Alien ships poured after them, caught in the storm's pull. The once ordered lines of battle dissolved into chaos. Huge chunks of stone and metal slammed into alien hulls, ripping them open. Their swarms scattered, crashing into each other. The humans fought through it with grit. Their ships, smaller and faster, weaved between wreckage, forcing the aliens to take heavier blows. On the bridge, the tactical officer gasped. "It's working! The storm is tearing them apart!" But victory came at a cost. Another human cruiser spun out of control, dragged into the core of the storm, where it vanished in a flash of light. Every win cost lives. Still, hope flared. The aliens were breaking apart, their numbers finally thinning. In the fortress, the Marines felt the ship shake violently. The private steadied himself against a wall. "They're moving into the storm," he realized. His partner looked at him in disbelief. "The storm? That's insane." "Yeah," he said with a grim smile. "Sounds like us." Deeper inside, the Marines reached a massive chamber. At its center pulsed a glowing core, alive with energy. Dozens of alien guards surrounded it, and beyond them, cages lined the walls. Inside the cages, pale faces stared back. Humans. The private froze. "It's true, they've been here all along." One of the prisoners, weak but alive, cried out, "Help us! They're using us to feed the ship." Before anyone could respond, the aliens attacked. The chamber erupted in a brutal battle. Marines opened fire, cutting down waves of enemies. The private slashed through one creature, then another, but they just kept coming. His partner fired at the locks on a cage, freeing the first group of prisoners. They stumbled out, grabbing fallen weapons. Despite their weakness, they joined the fight. The sergeant roared, "Get those people out of here. Buy them time." The private pulled one. Freed prisoner behind cover. What did they mean? Feed the ship? The prisoner's voice shook. "The fortress, it drains us. Our minds, our bodies. That's how it powers its weapon. We are its fuel." The private felt cold rage fill his chest. "Not anymore," he turned to his partner. "We take out that core, or none of us leave." Back, In space, the alien fortress glowed brighter, its weapon system recharging. Despite the storm tearing at it, the beast refused to die. Its veins pulsed faster, feeding on the humans still trapped within. The first officer shouted, "Sir, it's charging again!" The captain's eyes narrowed. "Then this ends now. All power to forward cannons. We strike with everything we have." The flagship surged forward, ripping through wreckage and fire. Cannons thundered in unison, blasting into the fortress's surface. Explosions ripped across its body, tearing holes into its living hull. Inside, the private and the Marines pushed toward the glowing core. Every step was a fight, every breath a struggle. The fortress shook violently as though screaming in pain. The private shouted to his partner, "Cover me!" She nodded, laying down fire as he sprinted toward the core. Aliens lunged at him, but he fought with knife and rifle, refusing to stop. At the edge of the pulsing heart, he raised his weapon and fired everything he had. The core screamed, light flooding the chamber. The fortress trembled, its red glow flickering like a dying star. On the flagship's bridge, the tactical officer shouted, "The core is destabilizing." The captain stood tall, his voice steady. "Then we push harder. All ships, drive it into the storm's heart." The human fleet, battered and burning, rallied for one final charge, and in the shadows of the fortress, the prisoners fought alongside. The Marines, striking at the very heart of the beast. The end was near, but whether it was victory or doom, no one could yet tell. The alien fortress shuddered violently, its red veins flickering like dying fire. Explosions tore through its body as the human fleet hammered it from all sides. Every ship that remained pressed forward, engines screaming against the pull of the gravity storm. The fortress was alive, but it was bleeding, and humanity could smell victory. On the bridge of the flagship, the captain's hands gripped the railing. Sparks rained down from the damaged ceiling, but his eyes never left the pulsing alien core, visible through the viewport. "They're destabilized," the tactical officer shouted. "The core is failing." "Good," the captain said, his voice hard as steel. "Now push them into the storm's center. Leave nothing standing." Outside, the remaining alien ships howled in fury. They had no plan for this madness. Their weapon was crippled, their fleet torn apart, and yet they refused to retreat. Every strike from the humans tore pieces of their fortress away, but still they fought with inhuman determination. Inside, the Marines advanced toward the glowing core. The private and his partner moved with the freed prisoners beside them, each step a battle against the fortress itself. Floors shook, walls pulsed, and the air shimmered with energy. The aliens tried to stop them, but every fallen enemy was replaced with another, and every wave of attackers was met with ruthless resistance. The private raised his rifle. "Almost there! Keep moving!" One of the prisoners shouted, "The core! It's feeding on us! We have to destroy it now!" His partner reloaded her weapon quickly. "Then we finish it!" They fired at the pulsing heart, striking at the circuits and veins that powered the fortress. Sparks flew, arcs of energy shot across the room, and the entire structure groaned as though in pain. Suddenly the fortress shook violently, throwing them to the floor. The aliens screamed and fled into the shadows, but the humans pressed forward. On the bridge, the first officer gasped. "Sir, the fortress is collapsing!" The captain's eyes burned with determination. "All ships, hold formation. Prepare for final boarding. We are not leaving anyone behind." The human fleet surged, ripping through the remains of the alien swarm. Beams of light cut through darkness, explosions tore ships apart, and the gravity storm tore at both sides. Every second counted. Inside, the private lunged toward the final controls of the core, knife and rifle ready. Alien guards attacked, but he met them with brutal efficiency. Every strike, every shot, every swing of his blade was precise and deadly. "Cover me!" he shouted to his partner. She fired into the corridor, clearing their path while he reached the controls. Sparks flew. As he tore open the main console, the alien energy pulsed wildly, threatening to erupt, but he planted the charges. The prisoners gathered around, some weak, some determined, all ready to fight to the end. "Get back!" the private shouted. "We don't have much time." A deafening roar filled the chamber as the fortress's core overloaded. Red light exploded outward, lighting the hall like a sun. The walls shook violently and the floor cracked beneath them. Alien guards screamed as their fortress began to die. The private grabbed his partner's hand. "Go, now!" They ran through collapsing corridors as explosions tore behind them. Prisoners stumbled, Marines pulled them along, and alien attackers clawed at anything they could reach. The ship groaned like it was alive, trying to swallow them whole. Outside, the human fleet watched as the fortress's heart finally imploded. A blinding flash of red and white light exploded across space. Aliens screamed as debris scattered, their war machine crumbling in fire and smoke. The surviving human ships veered sharply, avoiding the falling wreckage. Flames and twisted metal tumbled into the gravity storm, dragging the remnants of the alien fleet with them. On the bridge of the flagship, the captain exhaled for the first time in hours. His hands were blackened with soot, and blood ran down his cheek, but his eyes burned with triumph. The first officer leaned against the console. "It's over," she whispered. The captain shook his head slowly. "Not completely. This was only the first strike. But we won this battle. We freed our people, and we showed them what it means to fight humans." Through the shattered hulls of the alien fortress, the freed prisoners stumbled onto transport shuttles. They looked at their rescuers with awe and gratitude. One of them, a young woman, turned to the private. "Thank you. You saved us all." He nodded, exhausted. "We didn't save ourselves yet, but we're getting there." The partner smiled faintly, her eyes scanning the debris-strewn void. "Do you think there are more of them out there?" The private's jaw tightened. "There always are. But we're still alive. That counts for something." In the distance, the remaining aliens scrambled, retreating from the storm and the human fleet. Their commander's voice echoed faintly over hijacked comms. "They have survived, but this is not the end. Humanity will fall. Eventually." The captain's eyes hardened. "Then we make sure it's a long time before they try again." The fleet regrouped, battered but alive. Smoke trailed from damaged hulls, and alarms continued to wail, but the humans cheered in triumph. Their ships floated among the stars, shining like defiant beacons. The private looked out the viewport at the dark void. "We came to die, maybe, but instead we live, and we fight again if we have to." His partner placed a hand on his shoulder. "We always do." The captain turned to his crew. "Repair the fleet, treat the wounded, remember the fallen, and prepare for what comes next, because the war is far from over." The stars were silent again, but this time the silence felt different. It carried victory, resilience, and warning. Humanity had struck first and survived, and somewhere in the dark, in the void beyond, countless enemies watched, calculating their next move. The human fleet drifted through the quiet aftermath, battered, scarred, but unbroken. A storm had passed, a fortress destroyed, and prisoners freed, but in every human heart aboard those ships, one truth burned bright. This was only the beginning. The universe had seen the Deathworlders fight, and it would. Never forget,